Slaves suffered more than Jesus on the cross.
If you're saying generically slaves suffer more than Jesus Christ, that's a lie, because not every slave was hung from a tree. Not every slave was beaten and ravished. Not every slave was raped. Not every slave skin was made out of cushions and the kids thrown into the alligators. And these are examples of things that happened during slavery, but that wasn't the typical behavior and the experience of every slave. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Officer Tatum Show. Hey, I want to tell you guys about this shirt. Our artists who are on our team made an incredible Artemis 2 shirt. This is the best one you're going to get in the entire nation. I wish that everybody in the world had an opportunity to see it so they can get it. But you have an opportunity right now. This is not a part of the 75% off. So you can buy this and you can get something else 75% off. This is not 75% off. This is one of our new designs. So get one today. It also has a back image on there. Best shirt you're going to get, period, when it comes to this topic. This woman has to be the dumbest woman on planet Earth, and you're going to find out why real quick. Roll it.
Slaves suffered more than Jesus on the cross. The slaves suffered more than Jesus on the cross. The slaves suffered more than Jesus on the cross. They ate my ancestors. They made couches out of our skin. They stuffed couch cushions with our hair. They kicked the heads off of babies. They ate them. They had picnics watching my ancestors be hung from trees. They fed baby ancestors to alligators as bait. They put us in zoos. Slaves suffered more than Jesus on the cross. And then they gave them a book. Oh, Jesus, oh, Jesus. When slaves couldn't even read. Slaves suffered more than Jesus on the cross.
Okay, first and foremost, let me just address this idiocy. If she's saying a slave who was abused and hung from a tree suffered more than Jesus Christ, I would argue that probably not. They probably suffered the same. If you're saying generically slaves suffer more than Jesus Christ, that's a lie, because not every slave was hung from a tree. Not every slave was beaten and ravished. Not every slave was raped. Not every slave skin was made out of cushions and the kids thrown into the alligators. And these are examples of things that happened during slavery, but that wasn't the typical behavior and the experience of every slave. Not every person who was a slave was in the plantation getting beat over the head every day and raped and assaulted. Some people were house slaves. Some people had two people that were slaves. Some people, they treated their slaves as if they were living with them as if they were family. So not every slave experienced that. Slavery was very different. Indentured servitude and in different parts of the country was more similar to some slaves in the South than the abusive side of it. So, and how do you know this, Brandon? I took Africana studies in college, so I studied slavery and everything else. So these people are disproportionately categorizing the slave experience and encapsulating the whole experience into Jesus Christ's experience. Okay, roll the clip on this last one and then we out of here.
Religion is not fact. Christianity is not fact. Jesus is not fact. The mythos of the Bible is not fact. It is opinion. Slavery is fact. The Holocaust is fact. Chattel slavery is fact. The transatlantic slave trade is fact. Racism is fact. Lynching is fact. The forced sterilization eugenics movements of the 70s and 80s, where they forcibly sterilized black and indigenous people of color, women, fact. Those are facts. The mythos of the Bible is not fact. So to my make-believe theologists in my DMs, when I'm asking you to cite your sources, I do not mean the Bible. I do not mean your book of fairy tales. I mean credible sources. Credible sources include scholarly articles or books, professional articles or books, articles in well-established newspapers. Those are credible sources to cite. If you're going to
all right, I can't handle the stupidity anymore. This woman is stupid, and this is what they're teaching these people at the university and colleges. So when you go to send your kid to the university, they may come back as a puffy head retard that don't know nothing about history. Jesus Christ's experience is a fact. It's not an opinion. The Bible is a historical document. And also, Jesus' existence does not only appear in the Bible, but his existence appeared in many other writings that are extra biblical. So you got to be a dummy to say that. And when you say slavery existed, and then yeah, these things existed, yeah, but in the way in which you're promoting it, that is not a fact. Every black person didn't get lynched. There's more black people that killed black people in a 6-month period in today's society than the entire 60-year history of lynching that's recorded. We kill more of each other in a 6-month period than the entire existence of lynching. And white people were lynched too. Now, obviously, black people were lynched more than whites, but white people were lynched too. I think if I remember the numbers, it's like 2,400 white people were lynched and about, I think around 40-some hundred or 6,000 black people were lynched, recorded lynching in the history of lynching, which is a 60-something year history. We got more people killed in a 6-month period than in the entire history. So the way you're explaining it, ma'am, is not fact. But Jesus Christ's existence, because you don't want to adhere to anything that puts you as number 2 in your life, then, people try to avoid the truth of it. You don't have to like Jesus to understand that Jesus existed and to understand that the Bible is true. And to be honest, if people actually read it and quit going off religious dogma, you will realize that the Bible is the best thing that ever happened to you. If you adhere to 3 of the 10 commandments, your life will be revolutionized forever. The whole world would change if people just abide by the 10 commandments. That's it. You don't have to even read nothing in the Bible. Just say if we followed the 10 commandments in the Bible, the whole world would be different. There ain't no other book can articulate it like the Bible. And that's because she's a stewhead. And this is what your kids are learning at universities. I'm just letting you know, not unless you go to a private one.